First of all, I make a short introduction of myself. My name is Martin Ebner. I'm the head of the educational technology at Graz University of Technology, and therefore I'm responsible for more or less all e-learning activities at the university. So we have a learning management system, of course, a video portal. We have also e-books or doing MOOCs and so on, and all this is done by my department. And second, I'm also a researcher, senior researcher at the Institute of Information Systems and Computer Media, and therefore I'm researcher in the field of technology-enhanced learning, e-learning, mobile learning, social media, learning analytics, and of course also open education resources for a couple of years now. And there I'm doing also program committees, doing different research projects and international talks and publication as well. Yeah, so I'm a researcher in the field of open education resources since I guess 7 years now, and we are dealing more or less in the German-speaking area with open education resources. The main reason is that we have a very strong copyright law, and this leads to a different perspective on open education resources. With other words, for us in the German-speaking countries, Austria, Germany and also Switzerland, it is very important to deal with open education resources because our main lecture content is protected by the copyright law. And therefore the idea is to introduce open education resources also in schools as well as in high schools and of course also at universities, with the idea that lecture content can be used by everyone, students, teachers, also outside the university. And therefore we begin a very strong research on that and how we can use it, and also did many different projects in this field. And I will also describe how we are dealing today with open education resources and what we have already done. Maybe the first very important project was called L3T. It was beginning in 2010, and it was more or less a textbook written with more than 200 participants over the whole German-speaking area in the field of technology-enhanced learning. So that is the final book. The final book has currently about 600 pages, and as I mentioned, about 120 authors who did write the different chapters. So it's real lecture content. It's not a scientific book. It's just a book for the lectures, and each chapter is free available as open education resources. And that was defined, of course, beforehand. The project started, and what we see today is that this book has more than 500,000 downloads now. So it's a real big resource in the German-speaking area, and it's used through different channels by different universities as well as students, lecturers, also for scientific publications. And I would today say it was the real beginning of open education resources, and we also won a prize for that. It is called as one of the most important German-speaking projects in the area of open education resources. And here we gather many experiences about that, how we can use it. We say the disadvantages as well as the advantages in this area. And therefore, we saw also that many people like to use it, for example, but nobody is just changing it or making presentation about it. They are just downloading the chapters. And there we also saw that we need something to train people why they should also produce open education resources, how they can change it, and that's the idea behind of it. And that was the reason that we started in 2013. This was 2010. We are going to make the first official massive open online course in the German-speaking area about open education resources. It was called CUR, a course about open educational resources. It was also 13 for the year. And This was available, of course, for all the German-speaking people, and we have more than, I guess, 1,000 participants. And it was a training over 7 weeks, where we say what are open education resources, how you can find open education resources, how you can use it, and how you can share it, of course, and so on. And it was also the real first big massive open online course in Germany. As I have here, for example, a small folder where you can see, and it was happening in 2013. 2014, we thought that was the area of massive open online courses, and we started iMOOCs. iMOOCs is the Austrian nationwide MOOC platform, and we go a different way than edX or Udacity, and our deal was that each MOOC of us, which will be available on iMOOCs, must be an open education resource. That was also a precondition to get this MOOC on that, and this was in 2014. And since then, every MOOC on it is an open education resources. So each MOOC has a clear Creative Commons license, with the idea that we can also give this lecture content outside, and everyone can use it also in their classrooms, in the lecture halls, whatever. And we also get the UNESCO also give us the patronage about that, because also we are dealing with their interests. These are the main projects we did, and currently, of course, we are dealing very much here. We have also redone this massive open online courses in 2015 within iMOOCs, and it will restart it in about a month. Also, so this is the third version of this MOOC with the idea to get more and more people. Maybe I will talk a little bit later also on the future, but here we are gathering feedback. So I'm also author of these books, for example. I was project leader, and I'm also, of course, doing this MOOC, for example, but I'm also reusing MOOCs there for my own lecture content. That's so. I mean, so I have experiences from all the sides, and it's also a very big issue for us in Austria to deal with open education resources in future.